Kumar Rocker was electric in his debut, plus we'll preview Week 26 up next on a Kokomo Friday.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in polka. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aaron Giolito, Castillo, Yoshida, Mosu,
value so high, but ADP so low. Frank loves tips up Connor Joe. Now let's get on with the show.
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome in to Fantasy Baseball today on Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, Kumar Rocker was electric in his debut. We have some rankings updates, our Week 26 preview, and much more. Let's jump in.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Oh my goodness, Chris. Kumar Rocker. Pretty awesome debut.
Yeah, if we had planned this out a little better, I would have suggested going to get like the title theme from like the original Night of the Living Dead. Because this segment today is the zombie players segment in honor of Friday the 13th. Because we got three guys whose fantasy value is back from the dead, baby. And we're starting with Kumar Rocker, who was one of the most hyped college prospects. I mean, maybe not quite on the Paul Skeens, Steven Strasburg level, but as a freshman in college, I don't know if you guys remember, threw a no-hitter in the College World Series semifinal, I think. And then his career got completely derailed by injuries. There was the whole thing with the Mets. He looked completely like a non-factor as a prospect until coming back from Tommy John surgery this year, where he was dominant in AAA and then came up for his major league debut, strikes out 7 over 4 innings, allows 1 earned run, 2 walks on 74 pitches, 17 swings and misses on 42 swings. That is a robust 40% swinging strike rate. And that, just a note here, we talked about it a little bit before the show. I'm going to call Kumar Rocker's breaking ball what he calls it, which is a curveball. StatCast currently calls it a slider. Every scouting report ever about Kumar Rocker seems to have called it a slider. He calls it a curveball, so I'm going to call it a curveball until I get bullied out of doing it, I guess. Or until everybody else decides to respect the man's wishes and call it a curveball as well.
You know, once
but
it's
that pitch,
I think of Kumar Rocker as an artist, and once it's out of the artist's hands, interpretation is left to the audience. So I see it as a slider. Anyway, continue.
Maybe. In his 2 AAA starts, Kumar Rocker's curveball had a 74% whiff per swing rate, which is just bonkers. Like 50% is an outrageous mark at the major league level. His first major league start, 62%, 13 whiffs on 21 swings. And the thing about this pitch, whatever you want to call it, it's got wicked 2-plane movement, but he can also throw it in a bunch of different ways. He can throw it where it almost just has straight north-south movement, or he can throw it where it's like almost sweepy. But it's actually the surprising thing, consistently 83 to 86 miles an hour. He threw 33 of them. They were all within that velocity range. It looks like a true plus pitch. Like already might be one of the best pitches in baseball. This is, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the comp that I made when I saw him pitching, it looked like Jose Fernandez's breaking ball. And I think Jose Fernandez is one of the best pitchers I've ever seen in my life. I'm not saying Kumar Rocker is that good, but the breaking ball looks legitimately plus. And he throws 97, can reach 99, can reach 100. Doesn't necessarily have ideal movement, but he throws from a low arm slot. It's very reminiscent of Paul Skeens, where before the season, there was like, but it's not, doesn't have the ideal induced vertical break. And it's like, yeah, he throws it 97. I don't care. That kind of thing. So I'm very excited about what Kumar Rocker showed here. He's got a lot to prove still. One, that he can stay healthy. Two, that he can keep the mechanics consistent, because that was an issue even before the injuries. It was an issue going back to college. But the stuff looks awesome, and it played. It played against the most strikeout-prone team in Major League Baseball history. That's a notable thing to add. But I'm very, very excited to see what the next couple of starts from Kumar Rocker look like.
Yeah, I mean, strikeout-prone team, the Mariners, but this start was like every start he had at Double and AAA looked like this too. So it just continued. And I noticed the same thing on the breaking ball, whatever you want to call it, just how different it always nasty, no matter what path it was following. But, and Kumar Rocker clearly knows it's a weapon. It's his most thrown pitch. It was at AAA too. And it just looks unhittable. I will remind everyone that at AAA, Kumar Rocker, not just at AAA, between Double and AAA, which was a total of 7 starts. The surface level numbers look great. He threw 71% strikes, and he had a 23% swinging strike rate, which are just you don't see those numbers higher than that ever. Now, in terms of usability in fantasy, his major league debut here, where he went 4 innings, was his season high in pitches, 74. He didn't throw more than 72 in the minors. He didn't go more than 5 innings in any of his minor league starts. So is he going to give us the kind of volume we need to activate him, particularly in like points leagues?
Yeah, I think points leagues probably not.
Yeah, probably not. I do have him after this debut among my sleeper pitchers for this week. He is scheduled to face Toronto next week, which isn't quite as bad of a lineup as it was early in the year, but it's still a decent matchup. I have Kumar Rocker 6th among my sleeper pitchers with that 1 start. And even if you don't want to put him in your lineup, I think it's advisable to pick him up, just because it seems like he's the sort of player who could randomly have this totally dominant start that sinks you if your opponent uses him.
Yeah.
Especially if you're chasing strikeouts in any way. Look, Roto leagues, it might be hard to make up strikeouts this late in the season, but if you play in a head-to-head categories league, you're in a playoff matchup, 6 to 8 strikeouts, that can swing a matchup throughout the course of a week. So, either get Kumar Rocker on your team and use him in a situation like that, or, like you said, Scott, prevent him from your opponent using Kumar Rocker against you. Did have a question just on his arsenal long-term, right? I think a lot of people will look at this and say, all right, well, he threw his slider a bunch. He's got a 4-seam fastball. He's got a sinker. Only threw the changeup 4% of the time. Is this an arsenal that can work long-term? And I think it's okay. It's fair to be skeptical on that. I think my immediate answer, just answering my own question, is that like if your slider is this good and you throw this hard, it could probably work regardless. Well, what do you guys?
I mean, look at what Spencer Strider's done with a slider and a fastball.
I didn't want to bring up Strider because we're throwing out these crazy names with Kumar Rocker, but I mean that is the mold if he wants to go for it.
It does remind me, like, Jose Fernandez didn't throw his changeup very often. Like, you can do it. Hunter Green took a big step forward this season while still being like 90% fastball slider. It reminds me a lot of Hunter Green, actually, just in terms of the arc of his career. Super highly hyped prospect whose career just gets kind of derailed in his early 20s by injuries, storms his way back to the majors. And obviously Green's taken some time to figure it out, but he's been a must roster pitcher throughout his time in the majors because we can see the upside. We can see the utility when he's going well. I think, Hunter Green's first couple of years, that's probably the most realistic outcome for Kumar Rocker. Like fastball throws hard, but doesn't have the ideal shape. So maybe it's not like an elite pitch, slider, curveball, whatever you want to call it.
Much better environment to pitch in, though. not being in Cincinnati, you know.
Sure. And so I'm looking at Kumar Rocker and like assuming he makes it through the offseason healthy, is in the rotation next season. I'm already ready to say he needs to be drafted in every league next year.
Yeah. No, I
Just
agree.
because the upside is bonkers and he's probably going to be like a top 200 pick.
Yeah, I mean, this slider is such a special pitch that I'm not sure I want to put a limit on the upside for Kumar Rocker. I think the control is great too, or at least much better than you'd expect for a young power pitcher. And I think durability and ability to work deep into games. I don't know what one singular word you'd use for that. Not one's coming to mind, but I think those two facets are really what hold Kumar Rocker, what potentially would inhibit him from being a total stud. I think that's mainly what I'm talking about here. And he's had health issues in the past, so maybe that does ultimately bring him down. But the upside here is so big, so big.
Mm-hmm. All right, Scott, let's stick with you and your player of the night / player who's back from the dead.
Victor Robles is who I'm choosing here. It's been a little while since we've talked about him, but he's been hitting well lately. He went 2 for 2 with 2 stolen bases here on Thursday.
3 for 3. 3 for 3, Scott.
Oh, 3 for 3. He got another hit. Okay, yeah. That was the last game of the night. 3 for 3. 2 stolen bases, or did he add another?
Only 2.
Okay, 2 stolen bases. So these numbers aren't totally updated, but I had him in his last 18 games with a .431 batting average and 9 stolen bases. And he's been good since joining the Mariners. In fact, I believe they signed him to a 2-year deal because of how much they were enjoying his services. One of their few players who's actually hitting worth a lick this year. He's up to overall a 300 batting average and 803 OPS. You look at the underlying numbers, and I don't see a lot that's changed for him. Even during this 18-game stretch where Victor Robles is batting over 400, average exit velocity is 85.1. It's never been good for him, but it's not gotten any better. His strikeout rate has gotten better the past couple years. As in it's below 20%, so it's not like he's leading the league in strikeout rate, but it's a good strikeout rate when before he was kind of a average to below average strikeout guy. So maybe that's enough. Obviously, he has a lot of speed. He's up to 26 steals now. So if he's good enough to stay in the lineup, which he has been this year, Victor Robles is going to be an asset just on speed alone. But obviously, there's a lot of failure on that track record. And since I'm not seeing something notable in the underlying numbers to really to explain this improvement for Victor Robles, I'm a little reluctant about it. I don't know. How do you feel, Chris?
So one thing I would point out is the average exit velocity for the season is 85.9 miles per hour. That is bad. That is, like your average exit velocity should be higher than Kyle Hendricks' fastball, ideally. But in his time with the Nationals, it was usually more like 82 to 84 miles per hour. So he has improved in that regard. And this season, one thing you're seeing is a lot more batted balls hit in the ideal launch angles. Robles has always been a guy who, remember in the minors, he actually hit for some power and put up like 900 OPSs in the minors. He was a big time prospect.
He was a huge prospect. Yeah, he was a bigger prospect than Juan Soto.
But then he came up to the majors, and it was like a slap hitter, but it was a slap hitter who hit a lot of fly balls. And what we're seeing this year is a lot more line drives. And
that's not what his Fangraphs page shows.
Okay.
His Fangraphs page has him at a 23% line drive rate, which is his highest since 2021.
Yeah.
At least
right, but that was the bulk of his career, 2021 and
Yeah.
previously.
But 23% is a pretty good line drive rate.
Yeah,
For me,
it's also his career rate. His career rate is 23%.
For me, it's also fewer pop-ups. Pulling the ball a little more consistently. That's a little, not a huge way one way or the other, but barrel rate is 7.8%. That's a career high. Expected WOBA on contact 358. That's bad. League average is 369, but his career rate is 324. So you add improved but not great contact skills with improved but pretty bad quality of contact and a very good athlete. And yeah, you can see how that guy could not 300, but can hit 270. And if that comes with 30 stolen bases next season, that's a pretty useful player. I don't think Victor Robles needs to be drafted as a top 150 player next year. I'm not even sure a top 200 player, but he's clearly going to have an everyday role. He's a good defender still. And I think as like a fifth outfielder in a roto league,
sure,
that's probably the only way he matters, but
yeah,
I think he will matter.
He's pacing for a lot more than that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
The 300 batting average, it's more like a 50 steal pace that he's on than a 30 steal pace. So,
honestly, if you go by plate appearances, he only has 246 plate appearances on the season. It's like a 70 steal pace if you gave him 600 plate appearances.
So if we dial that back, the batting average to 270, the stolen base pace to 30. Yeah, he'll be a category specialist in roto leagues, but is he going to be more than that?
That sounds pretty fringy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's pretty fringy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think deeper 5 outfielder leagues, like 15 teamers for sure, 12 team roto leagues with 5 outfielders, maybe as a bench bat, you want to get an early lead on steals or something like that. Like you said, I mean, it's going to be a specialist. For this season, he's 32% rostered. He's 31% on Yahoo. So I'm going to keep referencing that because I feel like lots of head-to-head playoffs and championships are going on right now. If you just need a streamer for steals and you need speed, Victor Robles is your guy right now. I mean, in 64 games with the Mariners, 22 steals. That is a fantastic pace for Victor Robles, who is back from the dead. One other name here who has risen, Frankie Montas. He's pitched well since joining the Brewers. At the Giants, 6 shutout innings with 8 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 102 pitches, 8 on the slider. He doubled his slider usage in this one, and it was awesome. Just mentioned the 8 whiffs, 73% whiff rate, 45% CSW, and he now has 7+ strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. He had 10 strikeouts in his previous outing. And overall, 8 starts with the Brewers, 3.40 ERA, 113 whip, 50 strikeouts over 45 innings for Frankie Montas, who's 50% rostered. And Scott, I believe you have him as a 2-start pitcher for next week, but one that you don't seem to like at all.
Yeah, it's going against the Phillies and the Diamondbacks.
Those are pretty tough. Yeah.
I did put together these rankings before this start, which was arguably his best start of the year. In fact, his last 2 starts are arguably his best 2 starts of the year. Probably not really, because there was that random start in Colorado, actually, June 4th, where he allowed 1 hit in 7 innings. That was probably his best start of the year. But his last 2 starts, 2 of his best 3 starts of the year, Frankie Montas. And I don't really understand what's changed for him. You mentioned he doubled his slider usage in this one, and it was very effective. Wasn't the case in his previous start. Pretty typical slider usage in that one. So it's not like we can point to that as the catalyst here for Frankie Montas' turnaround. So overall, the swinging strike rate is low. I think it's one of the lowest marks of his career. And I'm still pretty skeptical of it, especially with 2 bad matchups coming up.
I'm trying to think of like what there's like a type of monster in like maybe German folklore. I can't think of the word for it. It's kind of like maybe doppelganger for like a spirit that is present but isn't real. That's kind of how I feel about like what Frankie Montas is doing right now. Like, yeah, he's out there, he's pitching, he's getting good results. I don't think it's the real Frankie Montas. I don't think it's the one we used to get excited for. So yeah, maybe like the original like zombie in like Haitian folklore, maybe, or like the classic German doppelganger of like an ominous look-alike spirit. That's what I'm thinking for
Is it
Frankie
like
Montas.
a kobold?
There's a specific thing I'm thinking of that I can't quite get to, but maybe that's it. What did you say?
Kobold is a
Okay.
general or generic name for the household spirit in German folklore. A Hausgeist.
Hausgeist. Ooh.
House-
No, I don't think that's
Hausgeister.
right. That doesn't
Okay.
sound.
I didn't think that I would be Googling German ghost folklore, but here we are. I'm trying to find something too, because I feel like I know what you're talking about, Chris, but I can't figure it out. Although I did just read Belschnickel, so that brought up.
Either way, whatever you want to call it, I'm not buying the Frankie Montas resurrection. Here.
I'm more interested in learning
it-
German folklore here than I am fantasy baseball.
It's like I'm rewatching Game of Thrones. It's like when they resurrect, spoiler alert, when they resurrect Khal Drogo. But he's like, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
It's not
like
quite
that.
there.
I wanted to give an oh my goodness gracious shout out, by the way, to Jackson Chorio, who became the youngest player ever to go 2020. 20 years old, 20 homers, 20 steals in his rookie season. Boom. Awesome rookie breakout year for Jackson Chorio, who, I don't know, probably going to be drafted as like a top 50 player, maybe higher than that, like top 3 or 4 round player heading into next season. Quick reminder to download and follow Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. That is our 5-minute podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll have a bonus episode coming out this Saturday. Let's take our first break. And when we return, news and notes right after this.
At CBS Sports Golazo Network, we're bringing you the game.
Madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Wow.
And all day long!
24/7.
News and notes. Corey Seager was diagnosed with another sports hernia and will have season-ending surgery on Friday. If you remember, Seager had surgery for a sports hernia back in late January, which forced him to miss most of spring training. Now, that was a sports hernia on his left side. This sports hernia is on his right side. Still doesn't seem like it's a good thing, but the fact that he's having the surgery now, I think, fingers crossed, he should be ready and good to go for spring training.
I would think so. That's a lot of recovery time for a sports hernia. I don't know about this two sides issue going on. It's a new one for me as far as sports hernias go.
Time to do more crunches,
Yeah,
It does
build up
does
that
add-
core.
It does add a tad bit of doubt just to Corey Seager, who's missed a ton of time in his career, lingering hamstring strains. Now he's had sports hernia surgery on both sides of his body. Like, doesn't seem like a good thing for someone who's, I think he's past 30 years old now. So still an awesome player on a per game, per plate appearance basis. But, you do have to kind of bake in some of that injury risk with Corey Seager next year. Tarek Skubal was hit on his right hand with a comebacker, though he stayed in to finish his start. Thankfully, it was his non-throwing hand, and x-rays came back negative. Jose Altuve was out of the lineup Thursday with that right side discomfort that he suffered on Wednesday. Kyle Tucker is expected to return to the outfield on Friday. All four of his starts have come at DH so far, and he actually had his best game since returning here on Thursday. 2 for 4 with a double and a run scored. So would be nice if we can get a strong finish here from Kyle Tucker. Wilson Contreras will be reevaluated Monday as the Cardinals plan out his potential return. He's on the IL with a fractured right middle finger. Byron Buxton was reinstated from the IL and plans to be in the lineup on Friday. Xavier Edwards was not in the lineup Thursday for a third day in a row. And my first thought was perhaps he's not completely healthy. He just came back from the IL. Apparently, all 3 of these games have been against lefties. So I don't know if that could be maybe a trend for the rest of the season for Edwards.
Yeah, I did notice the thing against lefties. That would seem pretty short-sighted.
pretty
the Marlins
stupid.
part.
He's their best player, I would argue.
Yeah.
Would you like to guess the name of the person who they started in his place at second base?
Oh gosh, I'm sure I've heard.
Well,
the
he
name.
starts at shortstop. He doesn't start at second base.
Oh, well, who started it? Well, Otto Lopez started at shortstop.
But like, he hasn't been bad against lefties. Like, he has a 360 BABIP to go with a 290 batting average. But like, if we're gonna play that game, he has a 398 BABIP and a 340 BA against righties. So that would seem it just seems dumb if that's what they're actually doing. I don't know what to make. Like, I can't say it's not what they're doing.
My suspicion is that he's still feeling it in his back after a minimalized IL stay. It's only a suspicion, but it's the only thing that makes sense to me, because why wouldn't they play their best player, and one who in my mind has been one of the biggest gainers in the second half. He was in that article I wrote earlier this week.
I started working on my 2025 positional rankings, and he was shockingly high. Which
He's only
is
going to be shortstop.
Partially. Oh, he's only shortstop.
He's only going to be shortstop. He's not going to get the 20 games.
I thought I had
to
that
retain
backwards.
Second
Okay.
base. Yeah.
Oh, that makes it a little more interesting.
It does. It
But
stinks because second base is clearly going to be the weakest position.
Second
next
base
year.
is bad.
Yeah.
He was going to be my number 8 second baseman. Now I don't know.
Right.
I think he's still probably top 12 at shortstop, though.
Shortstop is loaded.
Shortstop's deep.
Yeah.
Shortstop's deep.
It's tough.
It is and it isn't. Because,
top 12 is deep.
I think I would rather take the flyer on Xavier Edwards than the, similar-ish but less exciting, like Nico Horner and Bryson Stott and
I don't know why they'd have to be that
those.
high.
Yeah,
I know we're getting a little off track here, but
I don't know who am I missing?
Who's losing eligibility at shortstop? Jackson Merrill.
Yes.
Yeah,
But otherwise, I'd have 12th for me, I think, would be Zach Neto. I guess Xavier Edwards is right there.
Zach Neto was 12th for me. Who am I missing? I don't know. We'll have to talk about it at some point because there must be some guys I'm missing. No, I've got Betts in there.
Okay.
Bogarts is losing shortstop too.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be ranked ahead of Xavier Edwards for me.
Right.
I don't know who you're missing. Missing somebody. We'll figure it out. O'Neal Cruz, do you have him lower?
Oh, I know. Okay, I think part of what I messed up. I took Gunnar Henderson out of shortstop, not third base. I had that backwards too.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but
that's only one name though.
I think Edwards could be in that mix for right around top 12 though.
Yeah, I think yeah.
I have him 12th right now. Unless there's someone that I'm forgetting about that's, going to be a huge rankings riser heading into the offseason. Yeah, I think that probably makes sense.
Who's out for the season at shortstop? Corey Seager.
Seager's going to be there.
That's the only top 12 guy who's out for the season.
Well, are you going to rank Bo Bichette ahead of him?
No.
Probably
I don't
not,
think
right?
so.
Like Carlos Correa, Ha-Sung Kim?
No, not Carlos Correa, not Kim.
Ahead of who? You're not going to put Bichette ahead of Xavier Edwards?
I don't think I would put Bichette ahead of Xavier Edwards or Zach Neto.
I'd probably put him ahead of Edwards. It's just such
At
a
least
difficult profile, and it's a bad team.
I'll say in Roto. In head-to-head points, probably Bichette. In Roto, I would put both Neto and Edwards ahead of him.
All right, let's continue on. Tyler Fitzgerald left Thursday with lower back tightness. Ryan Pepio was pulled after just 2 innings at the Guardians, but apparently it wasn't because of injury. It sounds like they might be managing his innings. He's now up to 115 on the season after just 64 2/3 last year. So if you have Pepio at this point, would you be all right dropping him for, the names on your sleeper pitchers list, for example, Scott?
It totally depends on the matchups. Let me see who they got coming up.
Do the matchups matter for Pepio if he's
that's
limited, though?
Well, I don't know that I'm supposed to interpret he's just going to go 2 innings every time.
No, not necessarily, but the fact that it happened already once kind of just scares me off of using him anymore.
I guess that's fair. It looks like he would line up to face. What is it, Toronto? No, it's not Toronto. It's a bad matchup anyway. It's the Red Sox. So yeah, that's fine. You can drop Pepio for a streamer.
All right. Chaz McCormick was placed in the IL with a fractured right hand. Alex Cobb was placed in the IL due to a blister on his right hand, and Travis d'Arnaud was reinstated from the paternity list. Let's take a look at some waiver wire hitters here. And Dylan Cruz continues to impress, 2 for 4 with his 6th stolen base. And in 15 games so far, he's batting .241, 3 homers, 6 steals, 756 OPS. He is 73% rostered. And if I saw this correctly, he is your number 1 sleeper hitter for next week. How about that, Scott? Dylan Cruz.
He is. Should I get into that now or should we wait?
Yeah, why not?
All right. So Victor Cruz has been pretty solid since
Hold on a second. Victor Cruz.
Dylan Cruz.
It's been a long time since I've heard that name.
Wasn't that a Giants wide receiver?
It sure was.
Yeah, okay. Dylan Cruz, he spells Cruz differently. We don't need to get into that again. Has obviously been pretty solid since reaching the majors, but he has just totally destroyed lefties. Entered today 7 for 17 with 2 home runs. 4 lefties on the schedule for the Nationals next week, and pretty good matchups overall. So I don't think you need much of an excuse to get Dylan Cruz in your lineup at this point. He's providing so much value just on the speed.
Mm-hmm.
But those matchups and the splits against lefties, I think, make him a slam dunk starter for next week.
Again, that was Dylan Cruz. 2 other names here. I don't know. Any interest in these 2? Spencer Torkelson has been better since returning to the Tigers. 2 for 3 with a double, a walk, and 2 RBI. 23 games since rejoining the team. 253 batting average, 4 homers, a 783 OPS. And Lars Nootbaar is having a good September. 385, 1 homer, 3 doubles, 2 steals, and an 1129 OPS. Torkelson 51% rostered, and Nootbaar 29%. Chris, any interest there?
I have lots of interest in Spencer Torkelson in particular. I think 20 or 51% rostered. That's probably a little too low. He's been, for the most part, very, very good. I know he had slowed down considerably before this game. I think it was 2 for 29 over his previous 7 games was what I saw. So that wasn't great. But given the difference maker he was in the second half last season, given the skills that we know are there, I think he's a viable corner infielder. And Jake Berger's been ice cold. I think I'd be fine going with Spencer Torkelson over him if you're looking for a corner infielder.
One other name I'll give you as a drop is just Josh Bell. The playing time is starting to come down.
Yeah, he's out of the lineup basically since Christian Walker returned.
Yeah.
I was pretty disappointed actually seeing how things have been going for Torkelson. I know he got off to a hot start back from the minors, and Torkelson's fixed, but yeah, then he really fell off, and his overall strikeout rate since returning is like 35%. It's untenable. So I don't know that anything's actually been fixed here. And for what it's worth, since we're going week to week, the Tigers have the 3rd worst matchups next week.
Ooh. All right. Well,
Okay.
there goes that on Spencer Torkelson.
You don't have to sit him because he has bad matchups, but
no, I mean, it's obviously it's good context.
Yeah.
Jose Caballero, just another name if you are looking for speed. I know the playing time has kind of been sporadic, but now up to 40 steals.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier too. Yeah.
Yeah, he has started 7 of the past 11. So look, if you're in a daily lineup league and you can throw Caballero in there, the position eligibility obviously helps. Second base, third base, shortstop. Again, just a name if you're chasing speed. But even with that, I think I'd rather roster someone like Victor Robles.
He also
for his speed
leads the NL or AL in caught stealing. I would assume Ellie leads the majors in caught stealings just because he's run so much more than everyone. He only has 1 more caught stealing than Jose Caballero. It's been a weird season for Jose Caballero.
Some deep league waiver wire pitchers here. Mitchell Parker, a quality start up against the Marlins, 6 1/3 innings, 2 unearned runs with 5 strikeouts. He did basically double his splitter usage, and it was really good in this start. Also a great matchup. Ryan Feltner has pitched better in the second half. He was at the Tigers, 5 2/3, 2 runs with 6 strikeouts. Jacob Junis has pitched well in the Reds rotation. He was at the Cardinals, 5 innings, 1 run with 3 strikeouts. Mitch Spence, a quality start at the Astros, 7 innings, 2 runs, 0 walks, 2 strikeouts. And 10 starts in the second half for Mitch Spence, 3.67 ERA, 139 WHIP. And Cooper Criswell pitched well at the Yankees, 5 1/3, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. Again, these are very deep league names. I'll quickly read off the matchups. Criswell is at Tampa Bay. Mitch Spence is at the Cubs next week. Jacob Junis is home against the Braves. Ryan Feltner is home against the D-backs in Coors Field. And Mitchell Parker looks like a 2-star pitcher at the Mets and at the Cubs.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of interest in any of these guys. If you play in a daily lineups league, I could see Parker having a good start against the Cubs. I actually would be interested in Ryan Feltner if he got, I don't know if he's free agent anytime soon. I think he's actually reasonably skilled, and I think his away numbers are actually pretty good. Yeah, he has 3.93 ERA away from Coors and a 125 WHIP. I think Ryan Feltner could be interesting. Not with the Rockies, certainly not at home against the Diamondbacks. So I'm, not particularly interested in any of these guys.
I just wanted to say for Mitch Spence that he stands out at a couple things. He's a really good ground ball pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually throws strikes at a good rate. I think it's just a little over 2 walks per 9 on the year. So if he has a high whip and with the high ground ball rate, and he's been keeping runs off the board, generally speaking, I imagine it's a lot of singles he's giving up, which you could live with. You could be a successful major league pitcher just giving up a bunch of singles. Hasn't generally worked deep into games, so the fantasy interest hasn't been there. But the Athletics, I feel like, have a rotation and then some of pitchers that are kind of like this. They do something well enough that they're halfway decent. I've been surprised in recent weeks how many Athletics pitchers I've been putting in my sleeper pitchers articles because of this.
Yeah.
And I think Mitch Spence isn't the most interesting of them, but he does. I could see him being streamable going forward.
They have all blended into the same pitcher. I can't even differentiate them. I feel like
they do different things.
Yeah, it's like Joey P. Spenstis.
Some are big fly ball guys. Some are big ground ball guys.
Yeah. It's just every time I look at their pitchers' numbers, great numbers in the second half. The underlying numbers do not buy it at all. That's basically what I keep finding with all of them. But he does get lots of ground balls, and he does throw lots of strikes. So.
They're all number 4 starters, which is good. I mean, you're going to stick around in the majors if you're a number 4 starter, but it's obviously not. There's
roughly 30 of those.
Yeah,
and they've got 6 of them.
Chris, I have bad news on Ryan Feltner, who is under team control through 2028.
Well, maybe they should trade him anyway.
Yeah. Would not surprise me. 2 pitchers that have been scary good for months now. Framber Valdez continues his awesome run. 6 1/3 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts up against the Oakland A's. The whiffs actually down in the start. 9 whiffs on 96 pitches, but still managed a great outing. And Bryce Miller continues to pitch well up against Texas. 6 innings, 1 run, 7 strikeouts. Similar kind of scenario as Valdez. Did not get many whiffs, only 6 on 84 pitches, but still managed a quality start and just a great outing overall. But it's last 13 starts for Miller, 2.16 ERA, 0.93 WHIP. Last 11 for Valdez, 1.74 ERA, 0.82 WHIP. So these guys have been pretty awesome.
I haven't gotten to even thinking about SP rankings next year yet, but I'm going to make a case for Framber Valdez as a top 12 guy. I don't think he'll end up there. But this 11 start stretch is by far the best in terms of strikeout rate that we've ever seen from him. It's 32% in his career. He had one other stretch that was 29%. And it's come with, since that July 10th start, he has made his curveball his most used pitch. And I don't know. I think the way I look at it is no matter what, you're going to be happy with Framber Valdez on your team. He's probably more an SP2 But like if he was your SP2, you're perfectly happy with it. And now we're seeing legitimate ace upside from him.
Yeah, maybe. I'm still skeptical he's going to continue the curveball usage. His previous start was the lowest during this stretch. It was 28%. It got back up to 35% in this one, which isn't the highest it's been, but it's it shows he's still making a concerted effort to use it more.
On your making the case for Valdez as a top 12 starting pitcher, Chris, I updated the rankings here on Thursday, and I moved him up to SP9. There's not much time left for this season, but he's been much more consistent than Dylan Cease or George Kirby recently. So felt like he deserved to move ahead of those guys.
And look, there are a number of guys who are currently hurt that we will rank ahead of him next year. Tyler Glasnow, for one, probably Yoshinobu Yamamoto,
Strider.
Maybe Spencer Strider. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
Definitely. I don't understand this hesitation with Spencer
I don't know
Strider.
when is he going to be back in.
Yes.
Like it's 12 months. If it's 12 months and he's back in April, probably. If
he
it's
didn't
14
have
months,
ligament damage. That's what everybody's forgetting. He
didn't have Tommy John surgery.
No,
he had the internal brace.
He had internal brace, and it wasn't even because of ligament damage. He had a bone spur putting pressure on the ligament, so they removed it. They did an internal bracing procedure just to stabilize the whole thing, and yeah, he's gonna be good to go from the start.
I think it's still pretty scary though. Like a pitcher who throws 97, 98 miles per hour. I don't care what you do with your elbow. The fact that like you had something put in your elbow, it's still a little scary, at least for me.
Yeah, no, I had forgotten
for
that
the consensus
detail.
number one pitcher in fantasy to drop.
But he wasn't
10 spots. Okay,
he wasn't pitching like it though. I mean, we had our concerns before he got.
He led the majors in wins and strikeouts by a considerable margin, both of them in 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, but we did have concerns about the ratios. No.
Yeah. The ERA
I
was
didn't really know
on the high side, but everybody had him as their top. Maybe there were a few oddballs who had Garrett Cole ahead of him, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No, he'll be fascinating. He'll be a fascinating one to discuss in the offseason because if other people are drafting him as like a top 3, top 5 starting pitcher,
it doesn't seem like it though. It seems like everybody's scared. Yeah. And
so maybe there will be a buying opportunity then.
Yeah, no, I think it depends. Like if we get to like February and pitchers and catchers report and he's just ready.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if he will be. Like this is a weird situation where internal brace is usually like 12 months and Tommy John is more like 14 to 15 months. But if it's not he didn't have significant ligament damage, then that's an interesting one. Yeah. That's a good one. I don't know.
It's one of those things where I think in the offseason people are going to be hesitant to draft him, but then spring training will start and he'll be just looking like Spencer Strider and everybody will get over it pretty quick. And so by the time we're in the heat of draft season, he's being drafted like an ace.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
All right, let's take our final break. And when we return, we will quickly talk about some of our latest rankings updates. Not that there's much season left, but we'll let you know. And we'll do that right after this.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
Welcome back in. Let's quickly run through some of our rankings updates. And who wants to go first? Who wants to step up?
So I moved Framber Valdez up to 13th since we just talked about that. Directly ahead of him, I have Bailey Ober, who, if you looked at my bold predictions for 2025 column that just came out on Thursday, I have Bailey Ober as my AL Cy Young pick for next year. And I got him top 12 ahead of Framber Valdez here. And then top 11 are the same guys who've been in the top 11 for months now. So that's as high as I could get Framber Valdez. We've got some other pitchers here returning in the next couple days. Jacob deGrom I have him inside my top 45 around names like Bowden Francis and Yusei Kikuchi. They're just ahead of him. Sean Manaea is right there too. So a range of recent risers who I'm mostly buying, but not totally sold on yet. That's where they sit in my rankings, just outside the top 40 pitchers, and then you go a few spots ahead of them, and you get like Carlos Rodon and Spencer Arrighetti. Been a little more confident in them, I would say. Scherzer, I think I need to move Scherzer up, but obviously he's coming back in the next couple days as well. And
I'm not really rushing to move him up.
Well, he had a really good
adding
rehab
him from,
start.
moving him from nowhere to 70th or whatever.
I moved him up to SP62.
Yeah, but I'm
not going to move him as high as DeGrom, but he did look, at least the results in his last minor league rehab start. He got like 8 strikeouts in 4 innings or something like that. So he looked good in that, and his matchups are good the rest of the way. Max Scherzer, so I could see him being useful. He's among my sleeper pitchers for this upcoming week, which we'll cover soon.
Are they going 6-man?
I believe so. Otherwise, Cody Bradford's got to be out, or Kumar Rocker's not making another start. I don't know. Mm-hmm. By the way, Rocker, my initial ranking 64, which I think was pretty optimistic for a guy making his major league debut. Obviously, I'm going to have to move him up a bit following this, but that was my initial ranking.
Yeah, I moved him up to 73, and I didn't know if it was the right spot or not. I have him right behind Detmers and Matthew Boyd, who are other pitchers we've been touting recently. So,
I think I'd rather have Detmers or Matthew Boyd the rest of the way, but you're also ultimately probably only talking about a 4-inning difference between them all.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean they're ahead of Rocker for next week. I'll tell you that much. Boyd and Detmers both.
All right,
but we'll get to that soon.
Ooh, very soon. Chris, any rankings updates?
I did move Eugenio Suarez into my top 12. He is a top 40 player in fantasy.
Top 12 third baseman, right?
Top 12 third baseman.
Yeah.
He is a top 40 player in fantasy this season by the CBS Player Rater. Like, he is. Let me see if I can find the numbers. I just wrote about it. It's like tied for 6th among third basemen in runs.
I think he
5th
leads
in homers and 4th in RBI for the whole season with a perfectly fine 256 batting average.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in my preliminary run through the rankings. I put him 12th at third base for 2025. I don't feel any amount of confidence in that whatsoever. So please do not hold me to it when we are 7 months away from the start of next season. But
I'm not going to fall for this with Eugenio. So I'm usually the guy who's like, he was this high this season, so putting him 12th next season, that's discount enough. That's factoring in some regression. But obviously, Eugenio Suarez is old, and he's been bad for most often in recent years. And
was really bad for half of this year. No, I totally get it.
It's got to be an extreme discount for me to take him.
I totally get it. And there might be someone I'm just forgetting about. This is the problem when you're doing this, is there are guys who are out for the season who are buried in the rankings that I'm probably forgetting. But yeah,
not many at third base. Do you have Matt Chapman ahead of Suarez?
No.
Oh.
Because
I would.
Chapman's been slightly better overall. But I don't buy the stolen bases at all. And if you take the stolen bases away, Eugenio Suarez is the better player this season.
They feel like
he has been this year, but
they feel very similar, right? Like Chapman's had some awful seasons in recent years as well, right? So
yeah,
they're kind of
similar. Like a little bit younger. I don't like Junior Caminero is a very tough one. Isaac Paredes, I think you have to rank below Eugenio Suarez, right?
Yeah, Paredes is no good.
The D-backs lineup is much better than the Giants too. As of now, we'll see what happens in the offseason.
I'm not going to rank Jake Berger ahead of him.
No,
I'm not going to rank Nolan Arenado. I don't think deserves to be ranked ahead of him. Maybe Josh Young. Maybe I have Vientos ahead.
Okay, Bregman. You have Bregman.
I do have Bregman ahead.
Yeah.
Bregman, a free agent, worth mentioning.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is disorienting for the listener, but we went from talking about rest of season rankings, which honestly, who cares at this point? To now we're talking about 2025 rankings.
It's a fun conversation.
But yeah, it's a third base is losing some big names.
Yeah, it is.
And
players who won't be eligible at third base next year: Gunnar Henderson, Ellie De La Cruz, Vladimir Guerrero, Spencer Steer.
Wow.
Vlad is close, right? No, it's 20. This is so confusing, right? It's 20 games, right?
To retain eligibility at a position, a non-pitcher position. Yes.
Yeah.
20.
Spencer Steer, is he going to still have third base?
No. I mentioned him as not having third base. He won't have second base either, for what it's worth, but he...
Yeah. So
it looks like second and third base might not be so great next year.
No, third base will still be good.
I think third base will still be good.
There's studs up top, but it's just, like, if we're talking about Suarez being a top 12 third baseman, like, it seems like it kind of falls off kind of fast.
I think it does.
Yeah.
But Scott is not talking about.
He'll probably be on the borderline.
Connor Norby, that's a tough one.
I'll have Suarez ahead of Norby, I'm sure, because Norby has.
It feels so much like Zach Geloff.
Yeah. It's gonna be fascinating.
The zone contact is so bad for Connor Norby. I mean, I love what he's doing right now. It's just I don't know how sustainable it is.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Josh Young's another one that I think I could be talked into going ahead of Eugenio Suarez.
Max Muncy, he's healthy.
Caminero I'll definitely have ahead of Suarez. So I think Suarez will get pushed out of the top 12 for me, but not by much.
Caminero is another one that I wasn't sure about. Muncy, not in Roto, I don't think, although he's been fine. As far as rest of season, so Eugenio Suarez, top 12. Bowden Francis, I moved to RP13, and he looks like the clear best Sparp for 2025 as well. We had an embarrassment of Sparp riches this season, not going to be the case for 2025, at least as of now. There will be guys that emerge, but and he's in the top 45 at starting pitcher as well. And I moved Zach Neto up to number 12 at shortstop, and I think that's where he'll rank for next season in my preliminary ranks as well.
All right, some quick names that I moved up. Tommy Edman, who is on fire lately, up to my 16th ranked second baseman, 18th ranked shortstop, and 45th ranked outfielder. Spencer Horwitz up to my 21st first baseman, 22nd second baseman. So could be used as a corner or a middle infielder, regardless, wherever you need to use him. Jason Dominguez up to my outfielder 47. He is behind names like Pete Crow Armstrong and Dylan Cruz. And yeah, I think those are probably the most notable ones in that range. And then Luke Weaver, I moved up to my 30th ranked reliever, where, if you're in need of saves,
you sound bullish.
It gets bad. It gets bad fast at reliever. I feel like right now it's kind of a mess in that middle part of the reliever rankings.
Do you have him ahead of Justin Martinez?
No, I have Martinez ahead of him.
Aroldis Chapman.
Chapman is right around him. I think I have Chapman just ahead.
Okay.
I have Chapman one.
I may have some Sparps higher than you do. That might be why.
Yeah,
Weaver comes out because Weaver's, I think, 36 for me versus 30. Yeah. So it could just be Sparps.
Yeah, just behind him, I have Jason Foley and then a bunch of guys who lost their job, basically. So
I have Foley ahead. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's fair. All right, let's preview week 26, the second to last week of the season. The schedule is pretty straightforward. There are 16 teams with 6 games. There are 14 teams with 7 games next week, including the D-backs, the Braves, Cubs, Guardians, Astros, Angels, Dodgers, Brewers, Twins, Mets, Phillies, Pirates, Cardinals, and Nationals. What about the Rockies? They have 6 games. 3 are in Coors Field against the D-backs, and then 3 on the road at the Dodgers. Start or sit these 2 start pitchers for next week. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who typically is just a must-start pitcher, obviously, but only threw 4 innings in his return. Chris, next week he's at the Braves and home against the Rockies.
I think in a 2-start week, you probably just go ahead and start him. I'd be surprised if you got more than 10 or 11 innings from him, but given the matchups, I think I'm going with it, yeah.
For sure. Must start for me.
Zach Gallen has been better as of late, but he's in Coors Field and then at the Brewers. So 2 tough matchups there, Scott.
Yeah, I'm sure every other week Zach Gallen has lined up for 2 starts. I've put him in the must-start category. I have him just outside of it. So still an advisable start because he's Zach Gallen getting 2, but he's been kind of shaky overall, and obviously that Coors Field start especially is a bit worrisome.
Yu Darvish has the Jekyll and Hyde matchups, one against the Astros and then one against the White Sox. What do you think, Chris?
That was Darvish.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Probably like him more in a roto than a points league, but I'm fine with him, yeah.
Are you as in, Scott, as those cats are about to be in that food?
Actually, I will
Probably
say
not.
They decided not to come join me in the office during the podcast today. They were sleeping on the couch. So they're probably freaking out right outside of the door.
We're going to hear some meowing soon.
If you start to hear some like bestial noises, that might be Friday the 13th happening in my apartment. They might be about to kill me.
You know what's crazy, actually? I'm going upstate this weekend. I'm going to be like just in a house in the middle of the woods on Friday the 13th.
Are you going to Spookeepsy?
It's pretty scary stuff, man. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Would Boo-Keepsy work better?
Boo-Keepsy. Yeah, probably.
Boudica.
That's better. I like that. Ranger Suarez has been shaky since returning from the IL. He's at the Brewers and at the Mets next week. Scott.
Yeah, probably still going to start him with 2 starts. Obviously, easier to say in a points league than roto, but unless I'm just really being particular about ERA and WHIP, I'd probably start him either way.
All right, Chris. Nick Pivetta at Tampa Bay, home against the Twins.
I would do it, yeah. Certainly in head-to-head points, he's a SPARP. Anytime you have 2 starts from a SPARP, I think you're doing it. But even in roto, 4 good outings in a row. Again, one of them you have to look at June 26th in the game log, but it happened within the last 4 starts in our timeline. A lot of strikeouts lately, so I'd do it.
Shane Baz is home against the Red Sox and home against the Blue Jays. Scott?
So he's part of that third tier in my 2-star pitcher rankings, which is head-to-head points only. I don't love any of the 3 names in that tier, but the tier needs to exist, so Shane Baz is in it.
Chris, I'm going to guess we don't love this name either. Gavin Williams home against the Twins and at the Cardinals.
I'd have to be really desperate for strikeouts.
He is in that tier, yes.
Scott, 2-star pitchers to add and stream for next week. Names you actually kind of like.
Yeah, okay. So there are 3 2-star pitchers. Reed Detmers is my favorite. One of his 2 matchups is against the White Sox. The other is at the Astros, but, you can live with that, especially given how good that first matchup is and how good he's looked since returning from the minors. That slider seems to be back for Reed Detmers. Matthew Boyd. We talked about this after his most recent start, which wasn't the greatest against the White Sox, but he still got a lot of strikeouts, has been pitching well overall. Twins and Cardinals are Matthew Boyd's matchups for this week. Albert Suarez has the Giants and the Tigers on the schedule for this week. 2 teams that actually rank higher in runs scored than you'd believe, but I don't think of either as like a great offense, and Albert Suarez has been pretty steady of late. Most of the sleeper pitchers list is filled out by 1-star pitchers this week. We've mentioned a lot of them throughout the show already. Max Scherzer against the Mariners. Mm-hmm. We'll see how his first start back goes this weekend. If it doesn't go well, maybe I'll remove him from this list when I update it on Sunday. But right now I'm going to say Max Scherzer against the Mariners, his teammate Andrew Heaney against the Mariners. We'll also get a sneak peek of him against the Mariners this weekend. So same opponent 2 turns in a row for both Scherzer and Heaney, but obviously a strikeout-prone one and generally a good matchup. Kumar Rocker gets the Blue Jays next time out. Excited about that. Landon Knack gets the Marlins. I think that's the first time I've recommended Knack in this segment this year. Fly ball guy, great offense backing him, and obviously a really good matchup there. Cody Bradford, provided he is staying in the rotation, he gets the Blue Jays. I think he'll bounce back nicely against that team, which is especially bad against left-handed pitchers like him. Jameson Taillon has looked better of late, generally works deep into games, good control. He gets the Nationals. And then Martin Perez, just because he's facing the White Sox. You want a bonus name? Griffin Canning's also facing the White Sox and has had some decent starts lately, widely available in fantasy, but he didn't quite make the list of 10 for this week.
I'm totally down with it, man. Start anybody against the White Sox. Griffin Canning, Martin Perez. Yes, do it. Go for it. Best hitter matchups for next week: the Dodgers, Braves, Diamondbacks, Pirates, and Cubs. The worst hitter matchups: Rangers, Reds, Tigers, Athletics, and Brewers. Scott, who are your sleeper hitters for week 26?
I actually like this group a lot this week. So I mentioned Dylan Cruz as number 1. Tommy Edman, who's been hot, as you mentioned, Frank, he's number 2 with the Dodgers having the best hitter matchups. You can play him at 3 different positions. The Diamondbacks, as you mentioned, have the 3rd best hitter matchups, including that series at Colorado. And they only have righties on the schedule. So it's a tailor-made schedule for Jock Peterson. Good time to start him this week. Huge numbers against righties.
I thought you were talking about Taylor Ward.
No, but he's on this list too. The Angels matchups are middle of the road, but obviously Taylor Ward has been hot, and when he gets hot, he stays hot for a while. The Red Sox also face nothing but righties this week, which is good news for Wilyer Abreu and Masataka Yoshida, who've both cooled off lately, but I think regular starts this week should get them going again. Jorge Soler started to pick it up a little bit at the plate, and the Braves have the 2nd best matchups, as you mentioned, Frank. Jake McCarthy should benefit from the righty-loaded schedule for the Diamondbacks, just like Jock Peterson will. And finally, Andres Chaparro of the Nationals. He has been playing every day. He has been hitting well, especially against left-handed pitchers. 344 batting average, 1104 OPS. And as I mentioned for Dylan Cruz, 4 lefties on the schedule for the Nationals this week.
All right, let's wrap up with some leftovers here and some pitching standouts. Tarek Skubal, another quality start up against the Rockies. 6 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts with 15 whiffs on 84 pitches. Sonny Gray looks to be back on track. He was facing the Reds. 6 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts, and he has 3 straight quality starts. Nestor Cortez pitched well up against the Red Sox. 5 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts, 19 whiffs on 92 pitches, 12 of those coming on the fastball. Velocity was up across the board for Nestor Cortez, who after his last outing, which was a relief appearance, he was pretty upset that he was pitching out of the bullpen, and obviously he backed it up here with a start. Will he stay in the rotation? I am not so sure. I don't know that anyone knows that right now. But Chris, anything on Nestor, Sonny Gray, and Tarek Skubal here on Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense for the Yankees to stick with a 6-man rotation. I don't really see why anyone would have to be out of the rotation, given that they do need to find ways to limit Luis Gil, and it's not like any of their pitchers are so obviously not deserving of a rotation spot. So I hope they don't kick Cortez out of the lineup. And then with Tarek Skubal is going to win AL Cy Young. He's arguably the best pitcher in fantasy. I don't think we ever need to talk about him. Sonny Gray, it's frustrating because it's so inconsistent. And then at the end of the year, it's like, yeah, he had another Sonny Gray season. And it doesn't feel that way when you're in the middle of it. Remember, he had a sub-3 ERA for a long time, was miserable for most of the last couple of months. But I generally think he's someone you just probably leave in your starting lineup. And especially when things are going well, you don't even think about sitting him. So that's you're not thinking about sitting Sonny Gray right now.
And I will point out with Sonny Gray, this is now 2 years in a row. I know he started the season on the IL, but since he's returned, he's basically been a workhorse, and he was a workhorse last year too. He threw 184 innings, so he had a bunch of injury-plagued seasons. I'm not saying he's completely past that, but at least for the past 2 years, he has kind of proven to be a workhorse once again. That is Sonny Gray. Some hitting leftovers. Marcus Semien is looking to finish strong. Last 7 games, batting .333 with 3 homers and 2 steals. And his teammate, Josh Young, also hitting better as of late. Last 22 games, .286 batting average, 4 homers, 11 runs, and 3 steals.
Can I say something on Semien real quick here?
Sure.
I thought my presumption was, given how bad he's been lately and really for the whole season, okay, he's 33 years old. It was kind of a tightrope walk he was doing anyway as a player who doesn't hit the ball especially hard, relies on launch angle and spray angle, all that for his production. I thought maybe, okay, he's just getting old. This might be the end of Marcus Semien as a fantasy standout. But you look at the data for him, it's pretty much what it's always been. It's very much like his 2022 season, almost identical to his 2022 season in terms of all the StatCast numbers. And 2022 wasn't as good for him as a hitter. The big difference is Semien just hasn't run nearly as much this year, and the lineup around him hasn't been as good. So runs and RBI are off a little bit. But I don't know that he's fundamentally changed this year. I think he could bounce back next year, and almost by default at that weak second base position, I imagine he'll be one of the first 5 drafted.
Yeah, he's number 5 for me. And I think there's probably, eyeballing it, an 80 pick drop after him. Like, I think Marcus Semien's probably still worthy of a top 50 pick for next season. I don't think Luis Garcia is going inside the top 100, right? He's my number 6 right now.
He might be on the fringe in Roto.
So
probably not. I don't know that I draft Semien in the top 50 for what it's worth, but
yeah, he feels like more of like a top 75. I think he'll drop down a little bit.
I mean, yeah. Well, he was like a top 25, top 30 pick. So there's a big drop coming, and deservedly so. But I'm saying I think there's a clear top 5, and he's in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I think it's just completely wide open at second base.
What's the clear top 5?
Mookie, Ketel Marte, Jose Altuve, Ozzie Albies, Marcus Semien.
Yeah, I don't think Mookie's gonna be second base. I think he's losing it.
He might.
Let's double check.
I did look, but I'm all confused. He's got 17.
Oh, not gonna get it.
I don't think he's gonna get it.
Has he played second base at all lately?
I think he's only in right field.
Yeah, he hasn't played second base since
The
August.
bad
14th.
gets worse.
Ugh.
Clear top
There's
4.
Top 4
Yeah.
at second base. Jeez.
Oh god, what a position.
Man, yeah, no, second base is like after moving Mookie Betts out, I think Brandon Lau is number 6 for me. Who's like had a pretty good season, but
I mean, just this podcast, it's lost Betts and Xavier Edwards.
All right, let's wrap up some bullpen updates for the Tigers. Jason Foley got the 9th inning with the game tied. He gave up 2 runs and took his 6th loss. For the Rockies, Tyler Kinley got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He gave up a hit and a walk, but he struck out 2 for his 12th save. Victor Vodnik was used in the 7th inning with the game tied, facing 6, 7, and 8 in the Tigers lineup. I just don't think they're ready to throw Vodnik back into the closer role, so I guess it's going to be Kinley.
Somebody suggested Matt McClain in the chat, but even he's not going to be second base eligible next year. He played more shortstop 2 years ago.
So, okay. I was going to ask. He's just not going to.
He'll get it early on next year if he's healthy, I guess.
True. Yeah, fair enough. That will be the position he's playing next year. So fair enough.
The number of players who are currently second base eligible but will not be next year is pretty massive. It's like Mookie, Xavier Edwards, Cedon Rafaela, Luis Arias, Xander Bogaerts will. Tyler Fitzgerald, wow. Spencer Steer. It's
you gotta pray for that Jackson Holiday breakout, man.
Ha-Seong Kim, I think, is going to lose second base eligibility.
Yeah, I think Holiday might be as high as 6th for me.
Christian Morel, I think,
Jordan
gained
Westberg,
second base eligibility.
Jordan Westberg's still going to be there.
Jordan Westberg, okay, that's one.
That helps. He probably is part of a.
He might be top 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
He deserves to be ahead of Lau, and
yeah,
I think so.
Might be a close call with Holiday, but I'll put him ahead of Holiday, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Back to bullpen updates for the Cardinals. Ryan Helsley was unavailable. Jojo Romero got the final 4 outs for his first save. For the Marlins, somebody named Jesus Tinoco tossed 2 perfect innings for his first save of the season, and actually has pretty good numbers. So maybe he's their de facto closer for the last.
He was my pick at the last bullpen report for whoever cares about speculating on the Marlins closer right now. Jesus Tinoco.
For the Rays, Edwin Uceta is currently suspended. Manuel Rodriguez pitched the 8th inning with a 2-run lead. And Chris, this one's for you. Richard Lovelady,
Woo!
second save of the season. And for the Brewers, Devin Williams struck out 2 for his 11th save. To stream or not to stream on Friday, we have DJ Hers, who faces the Marlins. We also have Landon Knack at the Braves, Brady Basso at the White Sox. And those are probably the 3 most interesting. Edward Cabrera at the Nationals.
I kind of liked what I saw from Basso in his first start and what he's been doing in the minors recently. And it's the White Sox. So
yes.
I have gotten burned by some streamers against the White Sox lately.
Do you really want to put the fate of your season in the hands of Brady Basso?
Yes.
I would go Hers and Knack are the only ones I would want to start.
Yeah.
And even that's stretching the term wanna.
Basso.
Basso's the third choice for me, but
I guess.
On Saturday, we have Kyle Gibson at the Blue Jays.
I could see an Austin Gomber start. That's a revenge game, right? Wasn't he on the Cubs at one point?
No, I think he came from the Cardinals in the Nolan Arenado trade.
Either way, I could see that one on the road being okay.
It's in Coors Field.
Oh, is it on the Coors Field? Then forget it.
Yeah, forget about it. On Saturday, we have Kyle Gibson at the Blue Jays. Patrick Corbin faces the Marlins. Nick Martinez at the Twins. JT Ginn at the White Sox.
Gosh,
so Patrick Corbin has had some good starts lately.
Yeah, and it's
but
Marlins.
No.
JT Ginn.
No.
Against the White Sox.
Yeah, like I could see Corbin, JT Ginn, Simeon Woods Richardson, Nick Martinez. I could see them all having good starts. I'm not betting on it.
I'm
I'd
not
have
betting
to
on
be
anybody here.
Totally desperate.
The whole segment is we're forced to pick, and so I'm picking.
But like
Corbin and Ginn.
I feel okay about DJ Hers. I don't feel okay about anybody on Saturday.
I don't even feel okay about Hers, to be honest.
All right. Well, let's just go on to Sunday then, where we have Rhett Lauder at the Twins. We have Mackenzie Gore facing the Marlins. David Peterson's at the Phillies. Ben Lively faces Tampa Bay. JP Sears at the White Sox. And Martin Perez at the Giants.
I think Mackenzie Gore versus Miami is the best streaming pitcher of the weekend by far.
I mean, I would have said so.
Yeah,
if he hadn't just got bombed against the Braves.
Agreed, and his velocity was down in that start. It's not great.
I think JP Sears at the White Sox is my preferred choice to Gore, but Gore would be my second choice for Sunday. Is Lively okay? Didn't he leave his last start early too? He's going against the Rays.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a lock, actually. Scott, if you're trying to talk, you just muted yourself out of nowhere.
I clicked next to the mute button to bring this window to the forefront, but I accidentally clicked mute, I guess.
All right. If you need a third on Sunday, I guess I'll say Martin Perez at the Giants.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to wrap there. For Scott and Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again next week. Bye-bye.